Alrighty, so today I want to talk about the Delve boss that is going to be coming to Old School that was supposed to be scheduled for spring, but is now going to be for the summer instead. And why is that the case? Well, this was released, or rather, it was blogged about sometime in January with a planned release to go for the spring. However, the rewards were trash. And so, as a result, people uh, made their voices loud. And Jagex actually listened, which is really cool because I was going to do a video on why they keep messing up certain aspects of updates that are otherwise colossal bangers. So we're going to talk about the Delve Boss rewards today and the ones that they proposed before, and what would be cool to see in the future if this makes sense. There's a lot of controversy regarding some of the items in the rewards. We'll also go over the other stuff that was released during RuneFest as well. The main premise of the Delve boss is that it's supposed to be, I think, 8 waves, and it's supposed to be like this never-ending encounter. But it's not exactly like an enrage encounter where the fight keeps getting augmented past wave 8 up to like wave hypothetically like 500 or whatever, and then it becomes super difficult. It seems like, from what I've read, that this Delve boss is going to be 8 waves, and then it's going to keep repeating wave 8, and you can stay in there as long as you want or as long as you can, and that's it. It won't get any more difficult. I think it will be increased unique chances, but it might cap at level 8. I'm not sure. We'll find out more when it actually releases. But that's a bit of a letdown because it basically like doesn't get harder than wave 8, so it's more of an endurance test than it is a skill check. Well, I guess it's kind of a skill check, but personally, I would have loved to see an enrage encounter where the higher skill you are, the closer you are to that Port Khazard and noob type level, then the more likely it is that you'd see the rewards, which is very compelling. We have this in RuneScape 3. We don't have it in Old School. This is the closest thing we get, but it's not exactly enraged, so they're calling it Delve. And it's specifically about something called the Doom of Mokhaiotl. And the initial rewards pitched were these things called Avernic Treads. What Avernic Treads are is they're a combination of all 3 boots. Initially, this was pitched to be a combination of all 3 boots. And it's exactly what it is, except for one thing. It gives an extra range strength bonus, which never happened before. Hold on, my webcam is off. Sorry about that, but yeah, the Avernic Treads are basically a combo of all 3 boots, and the Pegations don't actually have any range strength, but the Avernic Treads do, and that was supposed to be the big ticket item from here. My complaint with this was that it wasn't compelling. It wasn't like a flashy, like, oh, cool, look at this, I can't wait to get this. It was more like a very nice convenience factor. Don't get me wrong, these boots are fantastic. It's just that it's really not impactful that much for your gameplay when you are doing most of the content in the game, because typically you are not bringing multiple boosts to almost all pieces of content. Almost all the time you are good with just prims, which gives strength bonus, and the eternal boots don't actually benefit you much unless you have a shadow, in which case you're big ballin' at that point. And then the range strength would have actually been huge though, which is surprising that it's not on Pegasian boots. But the range strength only really matters again if you have like everything else already, then it's like not really that big of a deal in terms of your overall gameplay and what you're actually going to be bringing to these encounters. So that was the initial critique, is that these rewards were not really all that flashy or impactful. There's been like 3 iterations of this blog. It was reconsidered, and then maybe it's been 4, and then they redid it, and then they released it recently following RuneFest on 11th of March, which was like a week ago at the time of this recording, and they updated the treads. They made them better, which is great. Personally, I think it's great. A lot of people say power creep, but like this is actually really compelling to go for now, because before these were the stats of 5 strength bonus. We're only really looking at the damage bonuses here. 5 melee strength, 1 range strength, and 1% magic damage bonus, which is the same as the Cerberus shoes, except for range strength. That is brand new, which again, pegs should probably have it if we're being consistent here, but whatever. And now they're going to do something a bit different, where you're going to get these like unupgraded base boots, which is like all 3 combined. So you don't have to rely on the Cerberus shoes. That's very cool. and you have less strength than Prims, which is a bit weird. You have 2 range strength, which is kind of crazy. It's the same as Zeride Van Braces, which are the best in slot glove for range. That's pretty nutty. And then you still have a 1% magic damage bonus similar to Eternal. So it's kind of weird because your range strength is like is super inflated compared to anything else in the game, which is 0 for the boot slot. And your melee strength is just less than Prims, which it's a bit questionable. You're basically going to be using these as like range boots when you first get them until you upgrade them. And when you upgrade them, you don't get any extra accuracy. Let me actually check the... Oh, so it's even better then. They're getting extra accuracy on all the melee stats. And, all of the stats. All the melee, magic, and range will go up a little bit, which is really nice. That is flashy, to say the least. It's just a straight upgrade, so everyone's going to want to get these, provided that they have the requirements. Cures are not going to benefit at all from this because you need 80 defense. And then the maxed variant has actually 1 strength bonus higher than Prim, so that's kind of neat. It has 3 range strength, which is a lot from 0. Considering that nothing else really competes in terms of boost for range strength, I find it a bit odd that they didn't just like make this 1 over on the left and then make it 2 on the right. I'm not exactly sure how this calculates in terms of like DPS, but like it just bothers me that for consistency we don't have range strength on Pegasian boots, and we do for the other Serb shoes. Whatever. So you have an extra strength bonus from Prims, you have an extra range strength from the base version of these boots, and then you have 2% magic damage, which is really big for specifically the Shadow, maybe for other builds, depending if you already have like a bunch of better magic damage, maybe like with full Arams or something like that. 2% is nothing to scoff at. 2% is basically a Virtus piece for non-ancient spells with magic. So it's kind of huge, especially since it's like a direct upgrade from the previous Serb shoes. This is all you'll take. You'll probably never use Echo shoes ever. And I don't even know if you would take Echo shoes, frankly. It might just be dead content. The Echo shoes are the Guardian boots plus an Echo crystal from the Colosseum, which are basically Guardian boots, tanky boots, plus a little recoil effect with some prayer bonus. I don't think you would ever take it compared to this, so that just might be straight up dead content when these release. So far they are going with this. I think the defense bonuses are the same. 25s and 10. 21 stab, what? Okay, so interestingly enough, the stab bonus is a little bit less. Yeah, the stab bonus is like 4 less on the Avernic Treads, which is peculiar. Maybe the Delve boss then is going to be stab focused. I'm not too sure, but those are the Avernic Treads. Way better, and they even outlined them over here, saying that it will be just straight up better than all of the other shoes that currently exist. It's a lot to take in, honestly. It's debatable how strong this is in terms of like power creep, if it's going to be worth it. The thing is that there are rewards in other blogs that when combined with this would kind of make things pretty nutty, which we'll go over on a different video, but we're just going to keep going through the Delve boss rewards. Previously, they announced something to the effect of a magic cape, which would serve as an in-between between Mage Arena 2 and the Inferno version of whatever the future best in slot Mage cape will be, that will pair alongside the Quiver and the Inferno cape. However, these stats were trash. It had prayer of -2, it had 1% magic damage over Mage Arena 2 cape, and it has 0 defensive bonuses. It might even have less magic, or maybe the same. I'm not too entirely sure, but this was trash. This was a heaping pile of trash, and I think you even needed to upgrade it with a Mage Arena 2 cape. And then when they revised it, they made the stats better, and then they included a passive effect on the Mage cape that says we're adding a flat minimum hit of 2 as a passive effect. This means that any successful accuracy roll would roll between 2 and your max hit for damage, which doesn't impact Tumakin Shadow as much because it's not a significant boost and it doesn't do anything for the multiplier effects. And it is a boost for faster hitting weapons like Tridents or Sanguinesti Staff, which is true because they are powered staffs. They're 4 tick, not Shadow that is 5 tick. And I thought this was an extremely clever way of mending or rather buffing everything that isn't a Shadow, because the Shadow has a huge design flaw right now, unfortunately, which I hope they address in the future, and maybe we could talk about that at some point if you guys are interested. The shadow is a big design L right now because it multiplies everything in terms of accuracy and damage that you're wearing for your gear by 3. It has a 3 times multiplier, meaning if you do any little minute increase on magic damage percentage, like going from 1 to 2%, you are actually making the shadow 3% better and not just like straight up 1% better. So you can't add like a 5% item because you make the shadow 15% better. So it scales much harder with every upgrade, and the power creep is massive, and this will make shadow actually better than other weapons and otherwise non-mageable encounters, or rather mage discouraged encounters. So that is why shadow is a big L for a design flaw. And the solution that they were going to go for, or one of the solutions, was to increase the minimum hit to be 2 instead of 1, which has a greater benefit for tridents. I think this is really clever. However, they decided to scrap everything, which is really unfortunate. And then they went with a mage weapon instead of a cape called the Eye of Ayak. And this is a 3-tick weapon. It costs a currency called demonic tears or demon tears, which they've equated to be 2 death runes and 1 chaos rune. Before we talk about demon tears, we'll have to go back to the previous blog so we can talk about other types of currencies and why they're important here. Right now we're going to talk about the weapon. The weapon is 3-tick. This is just like a plus for Nilo. And that's about it. Because it's really hard to see the benefit of such a weapon. It has 100% special attack energy, which makes the next attack you do have a 5-tick cooldown, but the accuracy is doubled and you have a higher max hit, which drains the magic defense equal to the damage dealt. That may or may not be great because a lot of monsters have a mix of something called magic defense and magic level. Both of these things interact differently with things like the twisted bow as well as your magic accuracy, because your magic accuracy is a mix of your target's defense level as well as their magic level, I think. It's not clear if this will benefit really anywhere you use it. Considering it's also 100% special attack energy, its accuracy is also not that great because it's plus 30. And the Accursed Scepter might as well be better. So when we compare this to something in-game that already exists, we have the Accursed Scepter, which is this thing. And the Accursed Scepter has a special attack, which does 50%, not 100%. And only 1 Revenant Ether, which is also incredibly cheap. The special attack hits an enemy with a 50% increase to max hit and accuracy, which are, I think the max hit is just like straight up higher. 30% higher max hit and accuracy. Okay, so the Accursed Scepter is just better at 50% increased max hit and accuracy. And upon a successful hit, also drains the target's defense and magic by 15%, regardless of the damage inflicted. This is kind of similar to a BGS, where the magic defense only will be drained equal to the damage dealt. So if you hit like a 2, GG. 100% spec, GG'd. So with the Accursed Scepter, if you hit like 2, then you just straight up get the whole damage reduction of 15%. However, that is not the case with this thing. So it's just like strictly worse than Accursed Scepter in almost every scenario, I'm pretty sure, which is very trash. And it's great for Nilo. That's about all we could say, because it's the first 3-tick mage weapon that may come into the game. It still needs like a bit of an oomph to it, or like some different special attacks, something like that, because right now it's not very impactful. No one will use this for special attack, and basically one of the places that you would do this is Nihilus. Maybe the only place you would do this is Nihilus, because 3-tick is kind of crazy for magic, so that could be crazy for Theater of Blood people, but that's really about it. So it doesn't really impact a lot of people. There's also another thing here in that it has 6 range, which is lower than the other powered staffs. This makes things like chambers especially awkward, or that things you're used to long ranging are now just going to have to be lower range. It's an awkward weapon. It doesn't really fit anything in particular besides Tab Nilos. And if they're going for something like an Elder Maul, they should be like an Elder Maul. Or like if you're going for a BGS, it just needs to be more compelling. For 100% special energy, you shouldn't be able to have a special attack that is worse than 2 chances of a better special attack with the Accursed Scepter. Especially since the Accursed Scepter also drains regular defense, which is great for group content for people that are not maging bosses that are using like range or something like that. And now we can go over to the cost. The cost is 2 Death Runes, 1 Chaos Rune, or 1 Demon Tier. Demon tiers are basically like currency. They're similar to Sunfire Splinters from Colosseum. They're similar to Revenant Ether from Revenants. And it's going to be this stabilizer currency, like a chargeable system, which we've seen already, which is supposed to keep the activity profitable. If we look at the graph for Sunfire Splinters, we'll see that they are trending downwards, but overall, Sunfire Splinters have been about the same, between like 500 and 600 GP in the grand scheme of things since release. If we look at the OSRS wiki for money making, we'll actually see that Colosseum is all the way at the top. Right now, it has an hourly profit of 15 mil an hour. This is assuming that you're not doing max efficiency, which, like, even frankly, I'm not really that great at, but still 15 mil at least, if you're really good at Colosseum, is very compelling, especially since you don't have to wait for a shadow, which is the next highest moneymaker for Tombs of a Masked or for Theater of Blood, which right now the main moneymaker is the Mega Rare. That's really good. And Colosseum is currently the best moneymaker in terms of average per hour. And it's due to these Sunfire Splinters. These Splinters are consistently dropped in there. They are the item currency of that activity. And they have decided, Jagex has, to make Demon Tiers the currency for this upcoming, in the summer, upcoming PVM encounter for the Delve boss. But they've already priced it. So if we look at this, then the idea is that the Demon Tier would be equivalent price to 2 Death Runes and 1 Chaos Rune, which acts as like a price floor. It's just that I think that we should probably, well, they could experiment with this, sure, but I really like the idea of free markets, in particular with things like Sunfire Splinters, where the demand dictates the price. And if people aren't using Demon Tiers, maybe we should have another update in the future that would make them more useful for that case. Maybe not, but in that way, it wouldn't be tied specifically to the cost of Death and Chaos Runes, which is like, so it's like around 500 GP basically. The only reason that a Demon Tier would go higher in price for normal accounts in the market is if they had other use cases besides this wand, because there is no way they might actually go way lower, because if you get a surplus of Demon Tiers and not enough people are using the staff, then the Demon Tiers would actually be cheaper than the rune price. So I'm not a big fan of tying the Demon Tier currency to the runes required. It feels like what they should do is make enough compelling use cases for Demon Tier so that they are constantly in demand. Similar to Sunfire Splinters, the market will dictate the price, which is very nice, I think. There used to be a potential for a Thrall upgrade, and this was the currency previously posed. So previously, Thralls were going to have a very interesting mechanic that it's not clear to me how they would have coded it to be reliably consistent, because Thralls by themselves, they tend to move from where they spawned, and they wanted to leverage the trajectory from your character to a Thrall and have damage come out from that interaction if there's like a boss in between you or something like that. And they were going to use a consumable tradable resource in your ammo slot that would give you this ability. I like the idea of upgrading Thralls. I think that's fantastic. And instead of that, that was completely scrapped, which is a big L. Unlucky. It was a very interesting concept, but maybe it just wasn't thought out well when it comes to the actual mechanics of a Thrall. That's neither here nor there, because that's old news, and now we have something called Demon Tiers, so that is the currency for this activity, and it doesn't, I don't know, we'll have to see, but right now it doesn't feel to me that Demon Tiers are actually going to be that lit when it comes to the overall consistency of money making for this activity. Next, we have Confliction Gauntlets. So the previous mage damage percentage that was going to be on the cape. So previously, the Eldritch Veil was supposed to have a higher amount of magic percent damage on the cape slot than the existing best in slot. And since that was scrapped, they are proposing, or rather, they are planning on releasing this as of the making of this video, but who knows, summer is pretty far away. Something called Confliction Gauntlets, which have it goes on top of Tormented Bracelets, which have a additional 2% magic damage percentage above Tormented Bracelets. So this is already a very cool power spike in terms of the appeal of wanting to go to this content. keep in mind, Avernic Treads, which look really sick, by the way, is going to be great with the Blood Torva appeal and like Red Sight and all that stuff. The Avernic Treads already have a power spike for all the best in slot. And then on top of that, you'll also be able to get an extra 2% magic damage. So in total, we are looking at an extra 3% magic damage. That makes the Shadow 9% better, which may or may not be problematic because it's not only 9% more damage, it's 9% more accuracy for the Shadow when you combine the boots and these gauntlets. Prayer bonus is really nice as well. And then you also have 20 magic accuracy, but there's also a passive effect here, which is a bit sus. The passive effect says when you miss a magic attack with the gauntlets equipped, your next magic attack of the same type, same weapon or spell against the same enemy will roll accuracy twice. You miss an attack, you'll be twice as accurate with your next attempt or your next hit. And this is, it's not clear to me that this isn't going to be problematic for the Shadow. I've seen other videos on this, but when I first came across this, it was a bit of a question mark for the Shadow because the Shadow is already so powerful. If you double the accuracy of something that triples your existing mage gear accuracy, you're looking at a 6 times higher accuracy for your next attack in your gear. And that breaks a lot of the existing PVM encounters for the end game. If you can look at leagues as an example, with 100% extra accuracy, we were already maging like a lot of things we couldn't mage before. So when you have the same thing, 100% accuracy increase, which is basically what this is, twice the amount of accuracy for one hit, it is very leaguesy in the same sense that you're now going to be able to bring mage in places you otherwise shouldn't be able to. They stated that this passive effect, if I can find it here. Oh, here it is. This means that if you're already hitting all the time, looking at you Shadow, you won't be benefiting much, but you will be benefiting much because at places where you don't always hit with the Shadow, you will actually be benefiting a lot. So because they specifically singled out Shadow, it feels to me like they are talking about the gap between regular powered staffs like Trident and Sang staff, and then the power gap that exists between them and the Shadow. But frankly, they had an elegant solution with the minimum hit thing. We're adding a flat minimum hit of 2 as a passive effect. I thought this was a really clever way to buff things that aren't Shadow, which is probably honestly what they should do here, or make this like an offhand so that it doesn't affect Shadow, because the looking at you Shadow comment seems like they are really focusing on buffing non-Shadow things. They should just probably add that effect back, honestly. It would be really cool. There's another thing here that me personally, I'm not a fan of. The Magical Glove is an upgrade to the Tormented Bracelet and brings you an extra 2% magic damage and bonus magic accuracy, which is also crazy because that's further buffing the Shadow on top of everything else because accuracy is also 3 times increased. An upgrade to the Torn Bracelet. We already have the Amulet of Rancor, which is an upgrade to the Amulet of Torture. And because we have other pieces of Zenyte jewelry, it begs the question of, okay, so is Anguish going to be next? Because if they are already taking the Torture Amulet and they're going to be upgrading the Zenyte bracelets, are they going to upgrade then the Zenyte necklace, which gets turned into a Necklace of Anguish, which is the current best in slot range jewelry for the amulet, and the Tormented bracelet is the best in slot mage jewelry for the gloves. I don't know. I'd rather that, personally, this is just my opinion. I feel like it would be great if we just didn't. I didn't agree with the Rancor decision either. It would be great if it just like dropped as a drop, because now it feels like you're always going to need to go to get every jewelry Zenyte piece and then upgrade them. It might be like an appeal to Iron Man that already have all the Zenytes, but like they don't. Yeah, it just feels weird. It feels like where if you come out with a better jewelry slot for range equipment and it's not using Necklace of Anguish, it's going to be like a bit of a question mark as to why you did it for the other two and not for the third. So it's personally something that I am not like thrilled by. I'm not upset about, but it's kind of just weird. I'm not a fan. But that's all of the interesting upgrades. And then we have something called a Demonic Spade, which I this should be the Demonic Spade. Hold on, we could change this right now. Wow, that's what software is useful for. See, wouldn't it be great if it was just Demonic Spade? But anyway, we have the Demonic Spade. And then it is a weird thing, but it seems like a neat thing where it just increases the speed at which you harvest things, I'm pretty sure. One-time demonic tears cost, which is a good use for your demonic tears. It's just that it's one time per account. So unless it's like a huge amount of demonic tears, I feel like they should add one more use case for demonic tears to make this content profitable over a consistent amount of time, or a long period of time rather. And then the demonic spade is also tradable, which is like also kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, for demonic tears, it'd be nice if they had another use case. But that's all the rewards. This was like a pretty extensive overview of everything, like more than I expected. But we did have previous iterations that I did want to cover. There's been a bit of drama about this boss. It's my takeaway is that the rewards are now looking spicy, looking real nice. I think that the Eye of Ayak is lacking. It feels like the Confliction Gauntlets are a lot only because of the passive effect. That's my opinion. I like the stat upgrades because they make the idea of getting this content very exciting. I think that's very compelling for a new update, even if there is power creep involved. And that's frankly Avernic Treads I wanted. I wanted them to have increased stats, and they do, which is cool. It's weird that they're going so hard on range strength and not applying it to anything else. Whatever. That's what we have so far. This thing is slated on the roadmap to come out on in the summer with the final expansion of Varlamore, which also includes a fleshing which also includes a fletching activity. And this is like their enrage boss, but it's not like an enrage boss, it's like a delve boss, at least as it's currently proposed. So maybe this will change to enrage, I don't know. It would be cool. I would love to see that. I'm also planning on covering the upcoming endgame boss for Yama, and then we'll talk about other things as well as they come up. But this is all the stuff I've seen for the delve boss. It's a bit more extensive than I expected it to be, but those are my thoughts on it. Looking forward to this content. I'm looking forward to all the contents. Jagex has just been like constantly putting out bangers, and they continue to do so. And no doubt in my mind, they've just been very consistent. So looking forward to this. It's gonna be fun. I hope you guys enjoy as well. If you made this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and let me know what your thoughts are on the upcoming delve boss. I'll see you later.